I was an idiot and had an affair. It destroyed way more than my marriage. I was an idiot and had an affair. That part you'll believe. What happened next you'll find harder to believe, but it happened, just like I'm about to tell you. My name is Jason. I'm happily married, 16 years to Amanda. Not our names. To be honest, I'm happy most of the time. From the outside? Definitely, we're super happy, 3 great kids, daughters, 14 and 10, and son, 2. We're a good-looking, all-American suburban family, if I say so myself. One of the dads at the school drop-off joked to me that we're pillars of the community. I never set out to be a pillar, but it's a good feeling. Prior to marrying Amanda, I belonged to a different community. Nothing crazy or weird, like extreme sports or swingers parties or anything remotely criminal except for drugs. But it was definitely a lifestyle. I managed nightclubs. In fact, that's my work now. I'm a consultant for high-end restaurants. I usually work for rich owners, people with more money than God, who want to have a cool restaurant to brag about to their friends. Some place where they're king of the roost. But they don't know anything. So they pick a bad location, or a bad concept, or fall for a hustler who pitched them what they wanted to hear. So their projects turn to shit, but they're too prideful to cut bait, so they hire me. I'm like the wolf in Pulp Fiction, who cleans up the bloody messes. I love that movie. I come in, fire the dead wood, clean house, and get the thing back on its feet. Or I try my best. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I get paid, either way. I'm good at what I do. But I gotta say, the thrill is gone. There's something safe about the fact that it's not my money. I can go home to my family, knowing I'm able to support them. Safe was, at the time my first kid was born, exactly what I needed. Now, I'm not so sure. I just get so frustrated that it's not my name on the place. Am I falling for the same fantasy as my naive clients? Maybe. I thought I'd have my own hit club by now, probably several of them. But life intervened. My mentor, Rick, always warned me, running a club was like owning a dragon. A dragon is fun to show off, but they eat a ton, and if they're not fed on time, they eat you. So I gave up on my dream, in favor of reality, my family. Lately, though, my marriage? It's safe to say, that fire went out, about 3 children ago. It's the oldest story in the world. You meet, the chemistry is off the charts, you have sex in every room in the house. Things settle into a nice groove, but when that first baby is born, the party's over. It's fine, I don't have crazy appetites. I don't need threesomes or public sex or kink. The reason I don't need that. Did I mention I used to run nightclubs? In my early 20s, I'll spare you the graphic details. I was a good-looking guy with an important job at a happening place. The world was my oyster, and I had a lot of oysters. But that was half a lifetime ago. I got an invitation for a club opening or reopening that I wish I had never accepted. They were calling it the Junction, terrible name, but I knew it as the Bad Cat. It was where I first met my mentor, Rick, a bad influence, but a great boss. Back then, I was a recent college grad, a geo major, rocks for jocks. I went to school to play baseball until I blew out my elbow, and didn't want to get Tommy John surgery. After college, with no more pro ball dreams, and no backup plans, I just kinda drifted. My teammates were long gone, and my campus girlfriend moved across the country, so I picked a major metropolitan area, not gonna name it, that sounded cool, and moved there. I got a bartending job to pay the bills while I figured out my real career, where I met Rick. Rick wasn't much in person, short, scruffy, with a grating Boston accent. He had a sarcastic attitude, and an annoying habit of picking a nickname for each employee. He called me Homer, as in, a pitcher who gives up a lot of homers. I loathed him. But he was persistent and attentive, and I could see why women fell for him. He was like one of those rock stars who aren't good looking, but get tons of action because they're in a band. Rick was like a one-man band of his own. He taught me how to handle drinks at a bar and also drunks at a bar, haha. How to book music acts, manage a kitchen staff, handle investors, and, on a personal level, shop for clothes, pace yourself doing drugs, and juggle 3 girlfriends. I'm not proud. He became the dad I never had. My real dad is still around, a corporate middle manager, pretty square. He and I only bonded over sports. But Rick would just tell me straight up, "I love you, man." Don't underestimate how good that felt. "You're a good kid, Homer," he'd say. So when I got an invitation to visit Rick's old club, I'm not even sure how they found me, except that, from my work, I'm on a ton of mailing lists. I was feeling nostalgic. I wanted to take my wife, Amanda, so she could see this place where I had so many formative experiences. My wife, by the way, does not like the nightlife. I took her out one time with Rick and the gang. She spent 5 minutes among the party people and the drinking and the coke-fueled dancing, and said, "I'm going home. Call me if you ever grow up." I thought she was being a stick in the mud, and she insulted my friends. So we broke up for all of 24 hours. I had a random hookup, did the walk of shame from this poor woman's apartment, got home, showered, looked myself in the mirror. And I just said, "I'm never doing that again." I called Amanda, begged her to give me another shot, and thank God, she did. The nightlife, it turns out, was another dragon, just a beast to feed. It wasn't worth the thrills, which were mostly the same anyway. Who did I think I was, James Bond? Amanda fit all the Goldilocks criteria for me: cool, smart, beautiful, puts up with all my bullshit. I had a hunch she'd be a great mom, and she is. The two of us together, let me explain it this way: Rick and I always loved the insult comic, Don Rickles. He got away with his outrageous lines because he was, in truth, a super nice guy. You somehow knew he didn't really mean it. And Rickles was inseparable from his wife, Barbara. He respected her because, in private, she didn't take any shit. Amanda was my Barbara, solid as a rock. But there was just one little problem. Amanda never found Don Rickles funny. Amanda agreed to check out the club reopening, we got a sitter, and off we went. I was chomping at the bit to see my old stomping grounds. I'm not often nostalgic, but I was pumped: the sights, the smells, even that crappy tile floor in the kitchen. I had to tell myself, that stuff is probably gone. It was old back then, of course the new owner will have pulled it out. We turned into the parking lot, and my heart sank. The building's facade was completely different. The second I stepped inside, there was nothing left. We had gotten the babysitter, and driven an hour, for this? The new place was fine, they had good taste. But it was meaningless to me. Barren. And the people, I didn't know anybody. My mind was racing with all of the old pals and colleagues and customers and flirts, the regulars, waitstaff, cooks, bands, and drunks. All the human beings that make up a community. I had held out hope that at least one of them would still be here. But nope. I met the publicist who invited me. Her name was Delilah, short with curly hair, and that glad-handing energy that PR people have. I told her of my connection to the old place, and she said she just had to introduce me to her friend, Kendra, who did something with the interior redesign and also, it turned out, had some connection to Rick. At the sound of that name Rick, not Kendra, my wife froze up. She hated Rick. Only met him once, but thought he was the devil. He was a perfect gentleman to her, reported back that Amanda was a prince of abroad, and I should lock that down. He was almost melancholy about it, like he regretted his chaotic home life, multiple children with multiple women. I told Amanda what he said, and she grumbled, "That guy is poison, and he's not your friend." I was hurt. He was poison, but he truly was my friend. Tragically, Rick died, 9 years ago, in a murder-suicide. He had a girlfriend in the midst of yet another divorce who killed him, in a Phil Hartman type of situation. Terrible. We hadn't spoken his name since the funeral. Amanda didn't go to that, she was up to her neck with our second baby. The service was a weird scene of different wives and girlfriends and kids. I paid my respects, went home, hugged Amanda, and said, "I love you." Rick's dying had given me closure on that part of my life. I had no regrets about settling down because the other path, trying to act like a kid forever, only held death and destruction. So why I had been so insistent on bringing my wife, tonight? Maybe I was starting to feel my age. I had thrown out my back in the gym, and was feeling old. The club was full of young people, which only made me feel more old. After 20 minutes, we said our goodbyes to Delilah, but she mentioned there was one part of the building that was still intact from the old days, the office, in the basement, and would I like to see it? Hell yeah! I couldn't resist. The times, down there, the laughs. It was a real armpit of a room, with the stench of stale beer and Rick's cigars, but I had some memorable experiences in it. I asked my wife to come. She got halfway to the steps, and I could see on her face, no way. I didn't blame her. Why would she want to see some cramped old office where her husband had sleazy hookups? I said, babe, just let me take a look, and then we can get the hell out of here. She smiled and gave me a peck on the lips. I stepped downstairs and to the left, a path I had taken hundreds if not thousands of times. Let's see, 250 workdays a year, 5 times a day, 3 years? That's fair, 3,750. And I grinned. The desk and computer were different, the carpet had been ripped up, but the bones of the place, the creak of the steps, the spot where you had to duck your head around a support beam, it was just how I remembered it. I passed a milquetoast dude on his way out. I explained that I got my start in this room, a long time ago, and Delilah said it was okay to look around. He said sure, no problem. I stepped into the office, alone, soaked it up, and felt that bittersweet tinge of nostalgia. It was here, right here, where I had managed the emails. Yeah, we still had emails, it wasn't that long ago, done the books, placed the orders. To say nothing of the extracurricular activities, right there on, well, the couch was long gone, which was for the best. That was one filthy couch. I was struck by how small it seemed, like visiting your childhood bedroom. I don't believe in ghosts, but I understand their appeal. I felt like I was communing with another time, and another me. I felt like I could see Rick on that couch, puffing on a cigar, with his yellow teeth and crooked grin, spouting out a cockamamie theory about something or other, like a stand-up comic trying out a bit. I remembered one exchange we had. I hadn't thought about this in years. I asked why he spent so much time hanging out with young people. He said, in that blue-collar philosopher way, it makes me feel young. I said, you idiot, that'll only make you feel old. Go join the PTA. He looked at me and said, Homer, you got a point. I smiled at the memory. And that was that time to go. I said my private goodbye to this tiny place, and my ill-spent youth in it, turned to leave. And I ran right into her. She was standing in the doorway, wearing high heels and a red cocktail dress. My heart leapt out of my chest. I'm not going to describe her physical attributes. It'll sound cheesy and probably sexist. I like to consider myself a feminist, not just because I have 2 daughters, because I believe in it. Suffice it to say, with her chestnut hair and movie star good looks and the way she wore the tiny red dress, I was like, whoa. She was so good looking and so inviting, the way she instantly made eye contact, that my heart was pounding. She even smelled great. She asked, hey, can I look around? I said, sure, not my place. She grinned, what, you robbing the safe? I just mumbled the truth, no, I used to work here. She smiled broadly, no way. When? We compared notes. She had worked for the owner right after Rick's group and met Rick once, in passing. She asked about my time here. She had heard some wild stories, and I guess I was feeling defensive, because I said, mostly it was a shit ton of paperwork. This was true. Martha, our office lady, had a summer from hell, with her husband diagnosed with colon cancer. Rick kept her on the payroll, out of loyalty, and grabbed me from the dish room to help with the books. He saw something in me, the college boy, and in doing so, started my career. She gasped, wait a minute, are you Jason? I'd been dying to meet you. Now I was like, what is going on here? It turned out, she was the woman that Delilah wanted me to meet, Kendra. She got so close to me, I was trying to force myself not to glance at her chest, talking so enthusiastically. I don't think I heard a word she said. Something like, she had heard about me through a friend of a friend, and wanted to hire me to help open her own place? Yeah, that was it. She had scraped together some investment, and would I consider working for her? She was offering me a job. If only I had done the smart thing, said, no, thanks, I'm not looking to work in the city too long a commute. Or made any number of any excuses. Because, the real reason, you moron, you're married, and clearly you want to have sex with this woman, and the longer you spend around her, the more you are going to threaten your family, the one thing in your life you swore you would never jeopardize. But did I listen to my better angel? No, like an idiot, I succumbed to the devil, the trickster, on my other shoulder. It's just business. We exchanged numbers and I said I'd try to help. I had the perfect justification. I was being a good guy. What kind of dick would turn her down just because I had a problem with finding her attractive? Women shouldn't have to deal with their looks or lack of looks getting in the way of their hopes and dreams, right? I told myself, just pretend she's an ugly middle-aged dude and treat her the same way. And I did. Or tried to, anyway. I'll admit, I snuck a look at her ass on the way out. It was great. I went back upstairs, found my wife, and we went straight home. Getting ready for bed, I tried to initiate sex, but Amanda was exhausted from our 2-year-old giving her a hard time. I said, forget it, and we went to sleep. Kendra and I started an affair. That was so predictable, I'm really embarrassed. She texted me to meet at a space she wanted to lease for a restaurant. I figured, okay, do your due diligence, maybe it'll be a good gig? We met in this large, cavernous building downtown that she liked. I was hoping it would be a non-starter, so I could mansplain all the reasons why it wouldn't work and be done. But it was pretty good. A choice location, nice space, with a logical layout for the bar and kitchen. I could see it in my head. The only drawback was that it was expensive, but that was a good sign, it was in demand. She wore red, again, but a different outfit. She had a great sense of style. I was determined not to flirt, but she started, and I responded with some of Rick's ancient wisecracks. The thing that really turned me on. She laughed at my jokes. All of Rick's sarcastic comments and low-bow gags that my wife had poo-pooed for so long, not only did Kendra laugh at them, but she made me laugh. She had a real wit. I thought, you have to be kidding, dream girl. Only, I had married my dream girl. Or so I had thought. Know that old Paul Newman line? Why go out for hamburger when you can have steak at home? That was my mantra. I heard it from Rick, who mocked it, fuck that. Who wants the same thing night after night, no matter how good it is? I have to admit, he had a point. 18 years of sirloin, and suddenly you get the choicest cut of bluefin sushi from a master chef? Who could resist? No, we didn't have sex that first night. I'm not that idiotic and she wasn't that fast. But I was enough of a dummy to go with her to a nearby restaurant, under the guise of scoping out the competition. A few drinks later, her impossibly cute smile and perfect body. I walked her to her car, our eyes met, the moment was there, and we kissed. She knew I was married, she had seen my wife, at the party. We stopped, and she said, if this is gonna fuck up your life, let's not. This only made me want her more, that she was funny, and hot, and reasonable. I said, I have 3 kids. She said, I'm sorry, disappointed, but empathetic. We sort of pretended it never happened, but we both knew that was bullshit. I got home and found it easier than I expected to just pretend it never happened. I told Amanda the partial truth. I had met the female client and it was a promising gig. I didn't say that it was the woman in the red dress at the party. Amanda had noticed her and sniped. I remember when I had that much time for the gym. I had gotten off scot-free, but I couldn't stop thinking about Kendra. I almost texted her, but deleted it before I could do anything stupid. But she texted me, my heart jumped when it came in. She invited me to her office to go over paperwork for the restaurant and give me a down payment on my employment. Again, I rationalized, just business. It's good money. Besides, nothing really happened, right? It turns out, her office was just a laptop in a really nice condo where she was house-sitting for some friend in Europe, around 10 feet from her bed. Yeah, we had sex. It was fabulous. I had been with my wife for so long that I just completely forgot what it was like for things to be so easy. I'm not going to elaborate. This isn't the Penthouse Letters column. But when you're with someone, you adjust to what they like. If you're lucky, it's good. But there are always compromises. Inevitably, a certain sameness sets in. First we do this, then that, then maybe this. If the kids are out we can do this, too, and then, done. The things that you like that your partner doesn't? You just sort of pack them away as something you can learn to live without. And damn! Like a drug, that first hit, that first encounter, for me it all came rushing back. Not just the physical thrills, but the feelings, the sense of devouring the person. The sense that anything is possible, and somebody will take care of you. It was the best sex of my life. From then on, Kendra and I met up for work maybe once or twice a week. We did, in fact, do a little work. But the restaurant space she wanted was soon rented by someone else. After a few weeks, we didn't even pretend anymore. Covering it up was like taking candy from a baby. My wife was so completely trusting because, in 18 years, I hadn't given her the slightest cause to worry. Besides, she had her hands full. Our 2-year-old, Calvin, was late hitting milestones. But we could never get any kind of diagnosis. He definitely needed glasses, not easy to put on a toddler, but other than that. It was confusing, and the longer it went on, the more upsetting it became. Don't worry, they said. He'll catch up. But he didn't. Update, a year later and we still don't know what's wrong, and that is the most awful feeling in the world, that you can't help your kid. He had been something of a miracle baby, conceived on the very last round of IVF the doctor was willing to try. But in hindsight, nothing in this life comes free. Our girls, Jenny and Nikki, they're superstars. Bright, popular, easygoing. They've entered the years of sass and bloom, as Amanda puts it, but I get along with them. They give her a hard time, and Amanda criticizes me for being the good cop, making her the bad cop. I would have been fine with just the girls, but my wife found herself drifting. She has a home business, basically Etsy shit, pillows and jams and artsy-fartsy knickknacks. She likes it, and it's a good side hustle. As she hit her late 30s, she found herself longing for another baby, even though I remember us both saying, when we got rid of the diaper genie, never again. She also got it into her head that she really wanted a boy, like it was a gift for me. She wanted me to have all those dad-son experiences that were my only happy memories with my old man, all of them involving sports. I should have told her the truth, I didn't want it. I remembered the lengths my dad went to for my sports career, hours squatting with a catcher's mitt as I pretend pitched against my favorite big league lineups. Also, what, I could be a mediocre college player. No, having girls was great, I could drop them off at ballet and not have to spend all that time hauling ball bags to practices. But Amanda wanted a boy, I thought it would make her happy, and after 3 rounds of full-on IVF at 15 kA pop, lo and behold, we had a boy. Only, who knows what's wrong with him? Amanda doesn't want to put him into daycare, meaning she doesn't have much time for her business. She's exhausted all the time, without making money, so I have to earn it all. Know who I vented all this to? No, not my wife, to Kendra. And she really listened. It felt great. I hadn't been able to share my real feelings for, I don't know, maybe since before we started trying for the 3rd kid? I used to talk this way with Rick, when we were doing that I love you, man drunk shtick. But maybe, I can honestly say no, not ever. Was I falling in love with my mistress from an idiotic affair? Oh, man. I started to get careless. I had a close call with, of all things, a lie about the gas tank, why it had gotten so low if all I did was go a few blocks. I made up some bullshit about a change of plans and Amanda bought it. Getting away with it only emboldened me. I was not a fool about the risk. My parents had divorced when I was 12, and it was a gut punch. They didn't even have a super nasty split, but it was like the universe screamed at me, "Fuck you, kid. You can't trust anyone." So when I got married, I was in it, for real. But these past weeks, I found myself thinking, if we split up, it wouldn't be so bad, would it? The kids would just adjust, just like I did. Don't I deserve to be happy? I remember my dad lamely saying the same thing. I used to interrogate my parents about their divorce. There were many reasons, but it came down to my mom was nuts, and my dad was a dick. I agonized over ending things while I still could, but the physical thrills of Kendra weren't subsiding. If anything, they were getting more intense. It was in the middle of one of those encounters that something insane happened. I don't believe in ghosts or God or the afterlife or anything. I am 100% a stone-cold atheist. The paranormal always seemed like the biggest pile of horseshit. Whether it was psychics or ghosts or everything happens for a reason, my mom's mantra, I've had nothing but contempt for all that shit. Until it happened to me. The first time was at Kendra's place. We were going to have sex in the shower, but didn't even make it that far. The water was warming up, took forever, and we went at it right there at the bathroom sink. The mirror was starting to fog, and I'm a guy, I'm visual, so I checked out our reflection. And I could swear she had a different face in the mirror than in real life. I looked again, it was true, and it was so freaky, I had to stop. What the fuck? I started to get lightheaded. Maybe it was the glass of wine I had on an empty stomach, or I was coming down with something? Kendra attended to me, so caring, and her reflection went back to normal. So, I just wrote it off. We did pick back up our session, and had sex in the shower. When I got home, I had been 2 hours late, and Amanda is not dumb. She demanded to know where I was, and thank God, I had planned ahead. I had exchanged some pretend emails with my pal Phil about his car breaking down. He covered for me, though he sure sounded uncomfortable. Amanda bought it, but she knew something was off. Like an idiot, I carried on with Kendra a few more weeks. But just when I thought it would be alright, that I could get away with it, I saw that other face again. At first, it was her reflection in a car window. Just a fleeting glance, and when I stopped to look closely, it reverted to normal. But it happened a third time, then a fourth. No longer just in reflections, but in my peripheral vision, which is super annoying, because you can never square it up. I tried to memorize the fleeting details of this other woman, thinking it must be a celebrity or somebody I had known, my brain playing tricks on me. This fake Kendra was older, not as attractive to me, anyway, and she always seemed to be a little sad. One afternoon, lying in bed, it happened to me straight on. We were cuddling, and suddenly she became this totally other woman. I stared at her, so it wouldn't go away. I told her what I was seeing. She wasn't upset or mean, but became quite concerned. She asked me if I had any history of mental illness. That freaked me out. The answer is no. I tried to walk it back, by which point, she had reverted to real Kendra. I somehow didn't see the change, it just happened. I drove home in a daze, where my 14-year-old, Jenny, scared the shit out of me. "Dad, are you and Mom happy?" I was taken aback, of course. Why would you even ask that? She's always been perceptive. She said something about how hard it was for Mom to take care of Calvin, our toddler, and how hard it must be for me to work all the time to support us, and she had a friend whose parents just got divorced. I hedged an answer about marriages having their ups and downs, and she started to cry. She was really scared, and that hit me right in the heart. It made me value this family that we had created. Our family. My family. What was I thinking? I was going to jeopardize this, my flesh and blood, for some adolescent thrills? Going out for hamburger when I had steak at home? I texted Kendra that we needed to talk. I think she was beginning to sense this was coming, or maybe she felt the same way. She quickly agreed and suggested a coffee shop. We almost never met in public outside of those first work outings, so this was clearly going to be the breakup meeting. Great! We'll end it, like adults, go our separate ways, and live to tell the tale. What could go wrong? I showed up at Pete's Coffee. Imagine my surprise when